What's going on, my fellow Jedi and Padawans? Welcome back to another Jedi gaming video. Thank you guys so much for coming back to the channel, and if you guys are new, welcome. Today we're taking it back to a Strand Warlock build for y'all that I found to be so much fun on an exotic that I haven't seen talked about at all this season, really. So we are going over a Verity's Brow Strand build for our Warlock, and it absolutely slaps with those threadling grenades. Now, before we get into the nitty-gritty of this build, these threadling grenades do start out at a damage of about 20,000 when you're using this just normally. When that death throws is stacked up to ×5, it was doing upwards of 45,000 per threadling, so it is a super big buff, and you're able to wipe out a lot of stronger enemies. Even though we don't have as much as with the swarmers, this thing, you're able to produce some pretty gnarly ones, but you do have to throw them instead of consuming it with the abilities that we have on our Warlock, just as a little caveat. So you do have to throw that threadling grenade, but you'll see we're getting it back so fast with this build. Now, as always, starting out with our abilities, aspects, and fragments, obviously we got our Needle Storm as our super, since it is our only one at the moment. Now, for our abilities, Healing, Rift, and Burst Glide, you can really pick whatever you're feeling. I personally like Healing Rift for that endgame activities. Now, we got our Arcane Needle to unravel enemies, which we will use as well, just in general with our melee to get back our grenades and just make them even better. Now, we are going to be using threadling grenades with this build, so they do some pretty crazy damage with that pairing of Verity's Brow and our death throws. So our first aspect is Weaver's Call, casting our Rift to weave 3 threadlings, and we also deploy any threadlings you have perched. So with this build, we're getting our grenades back fast anyways, so we can consume a grenade if we want, so we have those threadlings on us and used it with our Rift, and then we can continue to throw the grenades that we're getting in the meantime. Now, for our second aspect, we have that Mind Spun Invocation. So with our threadlings, we consume it and immediately generate 5 threadling perched on us, which pair with that first one, when we cast our Rift, it'll send all 8 out at once, and then we can throw our extra grenades, because like you'll see in a second, we're getting our grenade energy back so fast with this build. Now, for our first fragment right here, we have Thread of Rebirth. So Strand Weapon Final Blows have a chance at creating threadlings, just to make this an even bigger threadling army to compare to that Swarmer build, because this thing with these threadlings do some massive damage, which allows us to get our grenade back just intrinsically, as you will see, with a couple of these fragments. Next off, our Thread of Evolution. Those threadlings travel farther and do additional damage. This helps us with everything from consuming our grenade, throwing down our Rift, and just throwing the threadlings in general, as well as the threadlings we're going to be producing from finishers and from our weapons. Now, this third one is what I was talking about with Thread of Generation, basically getting our grenade back intrinsically. Dealing damage generates grenade energy, so when we have all those threadlings going out doing damage on top of our weapons, we're going to get our grenade back so fast. It feels like it is just a perpetual thing. Like I said, you could even consume one to get those threadlings on you, shoot some enemies to get that damage, throw another one, and you'll still have some extra around. Now, last but not least, we have Thread of Finality. Finishers also make threadlings for us, so it is a very fun way to just have a threadling army for you in so many different ways. Your grenade, Rift with these, and finishers, as well as your weapons. Now, starting out with our weapons for this build, we have Rufus's Fury with that Demolitionist, which allows us just another way to have our grenade back even faster with all the other facets that we've had on top of it. We also have Paracausal Affinity on this, so it gets a damage boost when we get defeats of Strand type, which include everything in this build from our melee to those threadlings to this weapon, as well as our heavy. Now, in our energy slot, we have the Merciless Fusion Rifle right here with the non-lethal hits, lessen the charge time, so for those damage phases, enemies that you need it, like champions, bosses, whatever, this thing can substitute in for your heavy and absolutely juice some of those bosses. Like I'm saying, those non-lethal hits make the charge time super fast by the end of the magazine. Now, last but not least, for weapons, we have a Coraxus's Distress with Demolitionist Burst as well as Full Court. Demo again will give us our grenade back, as well as those defeats with this weapon will help us proc Paracausal Affinity for our Rufus's Fury. Plus Full Court is very good for that damage aspect of the DPS phases. Bosses, champions, like I said, then you can switch on over to the Merciless if you need to back this bad boy up for that damage. Moving on to some important mods with this build. First off, we have that Overload Auto for our Rufus's Fury. Next off, we got the Multi-Siphon mod, so we can have that Strand and Solar combo, which counts for 3 on our armors. Now, next off, we have some important Strand versions. Right here, we have Untangler, destroying a tangle with a Strand weapon, suspends targets damaged by an explosion. So this helps us suspend targets with our Strand weapons. Now, we're also using Unraveling Rounds. Rapid Final Blows with Strand weapons creates those Unraveling Rounds for our weapon. So since we're using our weapons to create death throws, which then we use for our grenades, we're going to be able to proc a lot of these tangles with those abilities, shoot it to suspend, and then also proc Unraveling Rounds with our weapon. Now on top of that, we're going to be using Threadling Blast, so those tangles that we're shooting with the Strand weapons have a larger AoE and more damaging on the explosion, so this is going to be bigger in its suspend AoE, and then we're just going to be able to clean up very easily with those Strand weapons and those Unraveling Rounds. Now, this slept-on helmet, Verity's Brow right here with the 4th magic. Weapon final blows of damage type matching your subclass grant that death throws, so both our Rufus's Fury and our Corax's Distress, which provide grenade damage bonus and grant us grenade energy, hence why we're getting our grenades back so fast with that Thread of Generation, as well as Demolitionist on both of our Strand weapons, as well as 4th magic and death throws proccing, which gives us that grenade energy. When we have death throws and throw a grenade, nearby allies also gain grenade energy and regeneration for a short time, so it's a nice little team kind of effort too if you're near your teammates, going through raids, going through master strikes, whatever it might be. Now for our mods, we're going to be using Ashes to Assets here so we can get that super energy on all of those threadling defeats, since we're going to be throwing them out instead of consuming them for the most part with this build. Now, like I talk about in our artifact, I have the Solar Strand Dual Siphon, so all of our weapons are going to help us to create Orbs of Power for us on those rapid final blows. And then we're also having Heavy Ammo Finder, so we can keep that Corax's Distress full and ready to go for DPS, proccing our grenades, whatever it might be. Moving on to our arm right here, Firepower, you will see we are creating Orbs of Power everywhere from those threadling defeats, and on top of that we're going to have Bolstering Detonation, which gives us our class ability back when we get damage with those grenades, so having them up consistently, we're going to be able to throw down our rift, create 3 threadlings, throw a grenade, throw down a rift, throw a grenade. It's absolutely insane. And then also Grenade Kickstarter, which helps with that perpetual feedback of having grenades. We just get a nice chunk of energy back, about 40% with this Grenade Kickstarter when we have that full armor charge. Now, onto our chest piece right here, we're going to be using 1 charged up with Concussive Dampener. Now, that Concussive Dampener can be switched out for whatever activity you're going into. You can do Void Resistance, Melee Resistance, Solar Resistance. I just chose Concussive with what I was doing to show off the build. Moving on to our boots right here for that little extra survivability. We're going to be having Better Already, so we get health regen on orb pickups, as well as Innervation, which gives us back our grenade on those orb pickups. And you will see we're getting them from, like I said, all of our weapons, as well as all of those grenade defeats from throwing our threadlings out. And last but certainly not least, another way that we're going to create a double orb is with Reaper, so when we throw down our rift, our next weapon defeat will create us an orb of power, as well as that double bomber is going to give us even more energy back when we cast our rift, so you can see how that ability spam comes into play by casting a rift, doing damage, etc. with our weapons, and those to proc generation. And then we also get everything from death throws to proc with bomber and innervation, so we're getting grenades grenades back so fast, and allowing us to have our rift back almost instantly as well, to just have a threadling army at your side. We're creating them in so many different ways, so it is a very fun add clear build for me. Found this out with Verity's Brow, like I said. Haven't seen too many people talking about it, so wanted to test it out, and I have been having a lot of fun running with this thing so far this year and testing it out as of the past couple days and weeks, if you will. So definitely hope y'all can get this tried out. Very fun and effective build for this game, like I said, with that Strand Warlock and all of those threadling grenades that you're gonna have, with some nice juicy damage on them as well with that Verity's Brow. So thank you guys again for that support. I truly appreciate it. Y'all have been absolutely killing it on the support, so I appreciate all y'all. I'll catch you in the next one.